Boardroom, Chapter 35, Part A, 1000 BC, Goliath. Come on out and fight like a man, you lily-livered chickens. He wiped the sweat from his brow as his words bellowed into the opposing camp. My mother could clean you guys' clock, rest her soul. I bet his mother was a sight to behold, Mephibosheth said. Probably where the term battle axe came from, his father Jonathan said, a half smile working its way onto his dusty face. Battle axe or not, we're stymied here until somebody stands up to that Philistine ogre. Grandpa Saul said, wringing his hands. His forehead was the only dry one in the army. His extreme angst about the giant roadblock did not allow his pores to sweat. He could not get anyone to challenge this 9-foot monster. The two armies had been at a standstill for nearly a month. King Saul could convince no one to go up against the guy, and Saul himself had said that if no one would attack Goliath by the end of 30 days, he, Saul, would go up against the great warrior himself. Saul was no little man. He was 6 foot 6 inches tall, among the tallest of all the Hebrews, and certainly the tallest man in the army. But he was out of shape from years of drinking, eating, partying, and debauchery. Clearly he was no match for such a physical specimen as Goliath, but so far there had been no other takers. I'll go out and take him on, Grandpa. I'll cut him to pieces, Mephibosheth said. He was now 15 years old, and his left leg was shriveled up and useless, secondary to a bout of polio he had contracted at age 4. He walked with a crutch, but he loved the army and army life. Jonathan and Saul took him along on every campaign. He and his grandpa were very close. I wish you could go out and kill that ogre, but I'm afraid by this time tomorrow I will be the one to do the job. God has always provided for our armies before, but I don't see it happening. I'll go with you, Grandpa. With your sword and my sling we'll wipe him out. Saul was amused, but he was also admiring his grandson's bold spirit. See, Grandpa, I've honed this stone's edge so it's very sharp. Saul took the disc-shaped stone from his grandson. As he did so, the stone nicked his ring finger. The small cut began to ooze. Saul dropped the stone and sat back in his field chair, his head spinning. He never could stand the sight of blood. No, Dad, you're in no shape to fight. Besides, you're needed to run the army. I'll take your sword. Maybe I'll get lucky, Jonathan said, knowing full well a one-on-one confrontation with a Philistine giant would be suicide. But it appeared he was going to be the sacrificial lamb. Hi, boys, how's it going? The three turned to see who the voice belonged to, but of course they all knew. How's the battle coming along? The familiar melodic voice said. Hi, Dave, Jonathan said, smiling weakly. Mephibosheth hobbled up and worked his way over to David. He steadied himself on David's right thigh. I'm going to kill a giant tomorrow, Mephibosheth said triumphantly. I'm going to do it with this stone. He held up the razor-sharp disc he had made. Well, that's pretty impressive, Sergeant. Just what giant are you going to kill? Goliath, of course. He pointed to the west across the open area between the two armies. David turned to look. How are you, buddy? Jonathan said, coming over and shaking his best friend's hand. Good, good. And you? David asked. Getting by, Jonathan replied. David could see his best friend was obviously under great strain. Where is this giant? You mean the army across the valley? No, over there, see? Mephibosheth pointed to the west. David looked across the valley and saw the massive Philistine army. That is a giant army, he said. No, the giant. See him there? Mephibosheth pointed to the left flank of the many tents and soldiers. There, he said. There what? David replied. There, see him? Mephibosheth pointed, raising his voice to a shrill pitch. David stared across the valley and saw the glint of a vertical object sticking out above the horizon of the army. That's him, Jonathan said. That's who? David said. The giant, Goliath of Gath, Mephibosheth said. It's just a siege ladder. I don't see. Presently the glistening vertical object began moving south along the horizon. What is that? The imposing figure of Saul came up behind David, casting a shadow over and in front of him. Saul stretched out his hand containing a field glass. He nodded, and David took the glass. He trained it on the army across the valley and saw the unmistakable 12-foot figure sauntering through the camp toward the open field in front of them. David's mouth dropped wide open, enough to accept the whole apple. "What is that?" "That is the giant, Uncle Dave," Mephibosheth replied. David could not muster an answer. "They call him Goliath, Uncle. They say he's from Gath, and there are more where he came from." "Where, where's Gath?" David stammered. "Down along the Med, towards Egypt," Saul answered. David, I'm going to kill him tomorrow," Mephibosheth said, squeezing David's thigh so hard it turned blue. David didn't feel it. He just stared through the glass, mouth still agape. "No one can kill that monster," Jonathan said. Yes, I can, Uncle Dave." Mephibosheth was not his nephew, but the little guy had called him uncle for as long as anyone could remember. "What do you think, bro?" Jonathan asked. "You think I can take him?" "What?" "No, I mean, sure, I mean, where'd you say such a giant came from?" "Gath. He's put out a challenge to anyone in our army." "What's that?" "He says if anyone will challenge him one-on-one and beat him, the entire Philistine army will retreat back to Philistia. But if he prevails, well, he will prevail. They will charge and destroy our army. They already outnumber us 3-1 and outsize us, as you can see. We have 30 days to comply." "And you've been here how many days?" 29. Two dark, widely set eyes pierced the heavy air at first light. Steam was filtering upward from the dewy, wet grass field early the next morning. His eyebrows were already moist with sweat. He was not sure if the water running down his face was steam or sweat, but he was sure that he was staring out at another sultry day, the 30th in a row. It had been an extremely hot spring, usual for this typically hot but dry, almost arid climate. He had not seen any campfires still burning, but knew he would soon see the morning ones. The Philistine army was well trained and very disciplined. There would be taps played precisely at sunrise. Muster would be exactly 1 hour later, followed by an hour of maneuvers, and then battle if ordered, or relaxation if there was no fight imminent that day. And for 29 days the latter was the norm. Army life was so boring to this warrior, save for the actual combat and, of course, collecting the spoils of battle. This included not only gold and other goods, but women. His little 600-man rogue army had fought many a battle, and he had many women as a result. But today that was all a distant memory. He longed for the day when he could have many and any woman he wanted whenever he wished. He could not imagine settling on one ever. His own army was up north on a raid near the city of Nazareth. His general, Joab, was conducting a raid on the diamond shipment that was being transported from Tashkent. They were to intercept and capture it in the little valley of Megiddo, south of Nazareth. He had snuck down to see his dear friend Jonathan and asked King Saul if he could use any help. Saul always would decline his help, but David continued to offer it and continued to campaign with his army, protecting the borders of Judea. He had planned on a weekend of rest and relaxation with his friend, but as soon as he arrived the previous afternoon, he knew there would be no picnic this weekend. He had played his harp and sang one of his newly composed songs, "The Lord is My Shepherd," last evening around the campfire. He always could think best when he was playing his beloved harp. His talent with that instrument was unmatched in all the world. He had precious little time for concerts, though the demand was high. As he played last evening, he realized that he again was going to have to do the dirty work. He would again have to be the point man. As he stared out at the open field and an army of crack troops not a half-mile from him, he looked up to the sky and said softly, "Why do you always pick me?" "Because you always say yes," Junior said. "But I get every dirty job there is to get in this God-forsaken land." "You can do the job." "Just once. How about sending me out to save a tall, dark-haired queen?" "You aren't ready yet," Junior said. "What do you mean, ready?" David said. I've fought off 11 brothers, killed a grizzly with my bare hands, and that lion. I've taken on armies 10 times the size of mine and whipped them. Junior stared him in the eye and said without emotion, You have no vision. David ignored the comment and said, Now you got me going up against this monster. You know he stands twice as tall as that grizzly. Twice as strong, too, Junior said. Well, I'm sick of it. See if you can get someone else to do your dirty work. How about you? Why don't you do this, guy? David said to Junior. My time's coming, but not today, Junior said. When? Oh, it's several generations away. So I'm supposed to do all your dirty work till then? Yeah, you and your sons. What sons? I don't have any kids. No time for it. It's not been my observation, Junior said. Well, David's voice trailed off. For all he knew, he had 30 sons, but he really didn't know. How are you going to take this Gath guy out? Junior asked. I don't know yet. I'll figure it out. Everybody's got a weakness. The two stared out into the gradually lightening air. What vision? David asked. What? Junior said. Vision. You talked about a vision earlier, David said. Oh, I didn't think you heard, Junior replied. Yeah, I heard. I've got vision. I'm doing everything you ask. My army's winning battle after battle, David said. And, Junior said. And what? David said. What's your vision? Junior queried. Vision? That means future, David said. Junior nodded in the affirmative. My vision? Well, me and old King Saul will take over the entire region, from Damascus to Alexandria. We'll solidify the whole region when Saul dies. Jonathan will take over as king, and I'll become a PM. Johnny and I get along so well. And then, Junior pressed. Then that's it. Everyone's happy. Junior shook his head. What? David said. Then when the Syrians invade, Junior said. We'll annex Syria, David said smugly. When the Egyptians invade, Junior said. We'll annex them too. And, Junior said, we'll annex them all. We'll have the whole world under one crown, Jonathan's. It'll be great. And what God will they all worship? Junior asked. Why, your father and mine, God Almighty. David knew this last answer would be an unlikely happening. Well, they will be free to worship whoever they choose, but they must also pledge allegiance to God Almighty, the only true God. Where have you seen this work before? Junior asked. Well,